Hey folks, welcome to the NBWildman channel. You ever talk to people, you're explaining what you're doing and you use phrases or terms or words and you just assume everybody knows what you're talking about, and then down the road you find out that actually nobody knew what you were saying anyway? So I do this a lot, unfortunately, and I do apologize for that. But when you get out in the trapping world and the hunting world, there's phrases that you use and terms that you use, and sometimes you forget that there's beginners out there or new people that don't really know exactly what you mean by that. So I had a couple of requests. In a lot of my videos I say just put that on a sliding lock or a drowning lock or a drowning rig. And I had a couple of people ask, what is that? How exactly do you wire up a drowning lock or a drowning rig and what the difference is? So there's two different sets that I use. There's two different things that I use for drowning. One is called a slide lock, like a drowning lock, and the other is basically a drowning rig. Now, those are different things, and I'll explain the difference in this video and how to wire those up and set them up. So listen, if you haven't yet subscribed to the NBWildman channel, we sure would appreciate it. As always, we're looking for questions, comments, feedback, whatever you got. Go ahead and leave those in the comment section down below. And if you like the videos, you want to get notified when we upload new content, go ahead and hit that bell so that you can, so that YouTube will send you a fancy little message every time we upload some new content. So the first thing I want to demonstrate here or show you is how to do an actual a drowning lock on a slide wire. A couple of different ways you can do this, but the basic premise of it is all the same. You want to anchor a piece of wire, just a piece of whatever you got for trapping wire, whatever you're going to use to toggle. You want to anchor that down in the water with enough depth that you're going to drown the animal. So depending on what your target is, if you're targeting otter, then you need a fair bit of water. Beaver, same thing. If you're talking about mink or muskrat, then you don't need as much water to drown. But just attach one end down solid. You can do that a bunch of different ways. You can use a long pole and then drive the pole into the mud. You can use a cinder block or a brick or a big stone. I've seen guys put dirt in feed bags, tie the wire to the top of the feed bag, throw it in the water, whatever it is. You just got to make sure that that end of the wire is down in the water far enough so that you drown the animal. And remember, please keep in mind that your trap has a chain. So assume that the animal is going to be all the way to the bottom, but they're going to be able to come up at least the length of your trap chain. Okay, so make sure you're still underneath what you need for that. Anyway, so you've got one end wired way down in the water, and then you've got your blank end up here. So let's say we're going to make my set over here on the bank or on the beaver dam or whatever it is. Okay, you got your trap, whatever trap you're going to use. Okay, just a regular leg hold, whatever you're going to use. Okay, and on the end of it, if it doesn't have one already, you need to wire, just attach whatever you use for a snare lock. Okay, so what I use for all my drowning locks is when I catch animals in snares, I always cut the snare lock back off. I use them a lot, remake them with snares, whatever. But on the ones that I don't, on extras or whatever, I use them for drowning rigs on traps. All of my traps that I'm going to use in the water are all equipped with a drowning lock like this. Okay. So what you do before you do anything, before you set the trap, before you wire anything off, you've got your long wire. You're going to set your snare lock. You're going to set it so that it'll slide down the wire, right, the easy way, and then not back up. So you want to run this on the wire first. Okay, so now you've got your snare, or now you've got your trap, attached with your snare lock on the wire. Again, if you're new and you're not exactly sure how the right way is, if it slides down the wire easily, you've got it on the right way. Okay? If it jerks, like chatters on the way down, you probably got it upside down and you want to switch that over, okay? Anyway, once you've done that, you have that all set, you want to take the loose end of your wire and you're going to attach it to something solid on the bank where you're going to run your drowner from, okay? So let's say I'm going to set the trap right here. Okay, so I'm going to have the trap right here on the beaver dam or whatever. I've got the loose end of my wire that I just slid the lock on, and I'm going to wire that off solid. Now you can do that with, if there's a little tree that's close by or something, whatever it happens to be, drive a stake down in the beaver dam or a metal stake like a T-stake or whatever. Just somehow make sure that the top of that is secure, okay? So now what you've got is you've got your wire secured at the top and you've got it running down into the water. And you've got your trap attached, right? and you've got it attached with a snare lock, okay? Then you're gonna set your trap, and you're gonna wait. And then when something gets caught, snap. Initially, they're gonna panic, and they're gonna head for deeper water. Your snare lock will slide down your toggle wire really easily, but not back up. It won't come up at all, okay? Because it's wired off on the bottom to something solid. So as they go to deep water, and this runs all the way down the line, when they pull back, they're like, oh, can't go any farther. And then when they pull back, the snare lock won't allow it to come back up. So it works exactly the same. It works exactly the same as a snare, except it's on a straight piece of wire, right? So the snare lock works the same. It just goes down the wire, gets to the end. The animal goes, uh-oh, can't go any farther that way. They try to resurface to get a breath or to get away, and they can't get back up the line because the lock is only a one way, okay? So it's real simple and easy to wire up. You just like that. So that's what I would call a drowning lock, right? Or a snare lock, set on a drowning wire. The other thing that I sometimes refer to in videos is called a drowning rig. Now, a drowning rig is different, and I'll show that to you next. Okay, so if I'm gonna make a drowning rig as opposed to a drowning lock, it's usually for a smaller animal, right? It's an animal that can't necessarily swim with the weight of the trap. So I would never set this for beaver, I would never set this for otter, I would never set this for raccoon. This is pretty much a mink and muskrat set for me. And here in New Brunswick, we have to have everything, if you're using a leg trap for mink specifically or muskrat, you have to have it on some type of drowning system where you can't just leg hold the animal, okay? Make sure you check your local regulations and your local laws as to what you can and can't do in your area. That's up to you what you do. But for me here, when I talk about a drowning rig, it's different. So let's assume that I'm in the brook, so to speak, right? And I've got 2 or 3 feet of water here. And this is the bank, okay? And then this is out in the brook. So what I do is I stake my wire up high. So I use one of my 3 or 4 foot T-stakes or a good rugged piece of wood or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You drive it into the bottom good and solid, and then you wire basically to the top of it or close to it. And I run my wire right across, almost level with the water level, okay? So this is the bank, and then this is the water coming out here. So the water's basically like just a little bit down from here. I'm gonna wanna run my wire right across, skim it, okay? And then stake it out. It doesn't have to be very far out in the water. 2, 3 feet, whatever it is, depending on the animal that you're catching. Okay, so you just want to take your toggle wire, stake it up high out in the water, and run it across to the bank. Take your trap that you're going to set on the bank, and just run your toggle wire through the loop of the trap, right, on the chain. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, you just run it through it. Okay? Once it's through it, like this, you're going to want to tie off the loose end again to something solid on the bank. So that could be a tree, that could be a big nail, it doesn't matter what it is, you just want to tie it off solid. Okay? So once you do that, you end up with a trap on a wire that can reach the bank and it can reach out into the water because of this slide line. Now this doesn't lock, this is free to go both ways. But what happens is you're going to set your trap, bait it, however you do it, set it on the bank, and you have the chain on the wire. Snap. Your mink, your muskrat, whatever it is, gets caught in the trap. They start to struggle around a little bit, and they realize that they can't go that way because this is wired off to that solid thing. So they're going to struggle around a little bit, and they're going to eventually figure out that, oh, I can go this way. So they head out into the water with this thing sliding, and as soon as they get off the bank, the weight of this trap drops down, and there you got them. So what happens is they can't swim with the weight of the trap attached to their front or back foot. They finally get off the bank out into the water, and they find that that's it. They can't get back up. They can't resurface. This drowns them. This is the same. This works the same as a slide down that won't come back up, except for a smaller animal. The weight of the trap is the weight at the bottom. Right? But if you're trapping a beaver, an otter, or something big, you need the end of the wire down into the bottom so that it holds them there so that they can't come back up because they're too strong. But a mink or a muskrat can't swim against the weight of this trap right here, So they're going to drown with this system right here. So this would be called, you know, like a drowning rig for me, as opposed to a drowning lock or a slide lock, which is the first thing I showed you, okay? Not real complicated. I use these a lot, but if you, these, just by the way, these work super good if you've got like a concrete bank underneath a bridge, right? So you've got a stream where there's mink running up along the bank. You set your trap up here on the concrete, and as soon as the trap falls off because it's a steep 90 degree, as soon as that trap falls off, then they're drowning, right? So, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Good, quick, clean kill. Anyway, listen, for those of you that know what I'm talking about and you've done this a million times, great. But there's been some new people that have commented on the channel just wanting to know how to wire up a slide lock and a drowning rig. So there you go. Hope this helps you out. Until next time, happy hunting from the NBWildman channel.